Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Yoshiyuki Yoshida to defeat Rumble Johnson. And I'm here to talk about Johnny Parsons versus Danny Roberts. Johnny Parsons is 7-3 as a pro, or 8-3, depending on who you ask. And he's 31 years old. And he's giving up 4 inches of height and 5 inches of reach to 36-year-old Danny Roberts, who is 18-7 as a pro. Parsons, he's got, again, assuming it's 7 victories, 5 TKOs, 2 decisions, and his 3 losses come 2 via TKO, 1 via decision. I've seen 2 of his losses. One I haven't seen, to this guy David Gladen, who got him out of it with a TKO in round 2. I really wish I could see what that looked like. But his other TKO loss came in round 2, and it was to this guy who turned out to be a really solid fighter, Glenn Sparv, who trained with Team Quest, I believe it said on the video, and Sparv TKO'd him on the ground. That was a TKO on the ground. He was overwhelmed, might have been complaining about the stoppage, but he was pinned and being smashed with elbows. And his other loss is a 5-round decision to Chris Cisneros, unanimous decision in what looked to be a wild brawl. Wild brawl, a lot of pocket striking, both guys getting hurt very often. Parsons probably landed the best overall shot, sat Chris on his ass. But Chris battled back, and yeah, those guys threw down. Seemed like a really close fight. Speaking of which, that's how he won his last fight against Solomon Renfro. Beat him by decision in a very close fight. Solomon, you could argue, won that fight 29-28. But what you can't argue is that Parsons was the last man standing. Parsons was taking it to him in round 3 and looked really good. But overall, he seemed, I can't say he seemed susceptible, because that makes it sound like he was weak. He seemed susceptible to the body shot, but not particularly vulnerable. But he ate a dozen body shots, really hard, powerful shots from Solomon Renfro, and also dealt with a little bit of adversity on the ground, and he survived it all. And again, I thought he was the last man standing. The decision went his way. So he showed a lot of good traits as a fighter, despite, again, it being a pretty close fight. And on the feet, that's where he gets most of his work done. 5 of his 7 wins. He's got great power. Again, likes to be in the pocket, throwing down, but he can make shit work. It's not just with his hands. He's got a nice head kick knockout, and just really not a limited guy at all, Johnny Parsons. He's a guy that I think is very much in the stand-up battle, even though he's fighting a seasoned fighter who's got 4 inches of height and 5 inches of reach on him. But yeah, Parsons is a fucking beast. He's an animal on the feet. Danny Roberts has a record of 18-7. He's got 8 TKO wins, 5 submissions, and 5 decisions. And his 7 losses come 4 via TKO or KO and 2 via submission. And then just 1 decision to Francisco Trinaldo. But almost all of his losses are in the UFC, against this, aside from this one to this guy Pavel Dorefty, who heel hooked him in round 1. Every other loss is in the UFC. The 4 guys that TKO him are Jack Della Maddalena, Michel Pereira, Nordine Taleb, and Michael Perry. Mike Perry. I don't know why I'm fucking calling him Michael. Michael Perry knocked him out in the 3rd round. A beautiful right cross. And the other guy to submit him was Claudio Silva, who I think retired, but he was a very, very good jiu-jitsu guy, and really nothing else. But he was in the UFC for some time, even though he fought once every 3.5 years. But Danny Roberts, we've seen him scratch and claw to beat a lot of great fighters over the years. You know, he's beaten some guys, plenty of guys who are better than anybody Johnny Parsons has fought, win or lose. So he's been there and done that, Danny Roberts. I think I expect him to be the cleaner fighter pretty much everywhere here. Maybe not on the feet, to be honest. But I think with his height and reach, he can certainly win the stand-up battle. But really, I think his best course of action is mixing shit up and trying to put Johnny Parsons on his ass. That's where Parsons had some trouble. Again, that's where he lost at least one of his fights. And also where he had some trouble with Solomon Renfro. But really, Danny Roberts, he's a guy that I expect to be better than him on the ground, Johnny Parsons. So even though Danny's not the best overall wrestler, I think he's good enough pretty much everywhere where he can find victories on the ground and in the clinch and all the little in-betweens. But at range on the feet, even though he's got 5 inches of reach and 4 inches of height, and Danny Roberts is a good striker himself, I just think he's 36 years old and he's vulnerable, and he's going against a little Terminator guy who hits really fucking hard and is a really good striker. So he's very much in the realm of getting knocked out. Danny Roberts has a weaker chin than most, but here I'm expecting a close fight. I think this is a close fight. I do think Danny's going to mix it up, but I also envision him getting hurt. I will sprinkle on Johnny Parsons getting the first round knockout, because I think, you know, if a chin is weak and the story is the chin, first round is probably when the fight's going to end. But I really, if I was forced to give a prediction, I'd go with Danny Roberts. I think Danny Roberts is the better overall fighter, and if his health holds up, I'm expecting him to outpoint Johnny Parsons, figure out a way to do it. You know, I don't know if he's going to be able to rip those body shots in and out like Solomon Renfro did. I think Danny Roberts might be a little more worried about his chin. But at the same time, he's got twice the height and reach of that guy, Renfro, anyway. So he's got options for winning pretty much everywhere. But he's unhealthy, in my opinion, a little more fragile than most. And he's got to watch out here. So yeah, I will sprinkle something on Parsons via first round KO. But the pick, and I'm not really betting on this at all, is Danny Roberts getting it done in one way or another. If I was forced to guess, I'd say it'd be a decision. But again, two of the losses for Johnny Parsons, 3, are by TKO. So there's no really telling how that's going to go. Like, share, subscribe, all that horseshit. Check out my other videos.